You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. That is Evo, and we are back. It is a Tuesday night. We are talking quarterbacks. We are less than 10 days away from the draft at this point. We're down to 9 days. We have not broken down the quarterbacks yet. It's time to do that this evening, and we got a bunch of dudes to talk about. Obviously, some massive names, Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, but some other people that we got to talk about as well. There's a lot of hype growing around some people. The Darty party might be starting for somebody. I know Evo's on that train. But my guy, Evo, how you doing? Welcome in. Kind of a crazy show. A little bittersweet, my man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Happy tax day to everybody.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully you get those refunds in. Hopefully this is not stopping you from turning your refunds. And if that's the case, like if you procrastinated, just go ahead, pause the show. You can come back later and watch. We'd very much appreciate it. But I'm happy to be here. Happy, we're kind of getting to the end of our draft segments right before the draft, getting done with our player, breakdowns of each position and everything. It's the culmination and kind of coming to the end of a lot of things for, the NFL offseason, different things for us and whatnot. Interesting times, kind of bittersweet, but also really exciting.
Yeah, man. It is exciting things. These quarterbacks, there's been so much vitriol that I cannot wait to get into that. But we've kind of alluded to it, made some hints at things going on the Twitter machine, or as we should call it, X, Elon. Make sure you don't throttle us for calling it the wrong name. But the Lineman Lounge is going away. This is the last Lineman Lounge where it will be just the two of us. And then next week is the very final Lineman Lounge. Where we will have in a bunch of our friends, guests, people that we have had on before, people that we've never had on. So for some of those guys, it'll be their first and their last time. For some, it'll be, just their last time. But I have some of those names confirmed. We got Mac the Buffalo will be joining us, his first and last time. So thank you to Mac. Casey Kinnaman will be there as well, his last time. Thanks, Casey. Andy Manchin. I want to say, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's from the Dog Chug. Good dude. First time on the show. Also last. Mo, my guy. Hey, shout out, Mo. I appreciate you, brother, coming in and helping me out with a documentary over the weekend as well. he will be there. Our guy, Jared Fatty Bates from Illegal Ham to the Face and Network 216. Still waiting on one more. We'll see if our guy Jacob Roach is able to join us. But we're going to have a full packed lineup for what is going to be a really fun mock draft, the final show, the blowout show of the Lineman Lounge.
Yeah, it's interesting times for sure. Things are changing. I think it's safe to say we're not going anywhere though. But it is kind of sad. Look, the Lineman Lounge has been something that we've been doing for years now, and as you can kind of see in that intro video, multiple iterations, things have changed, and as is normal in life, things have to change, things have to progress, and we got to grow, and sometimes you just gotta keep it raw, real, and kind of unchained, and find different ways to grow. So we're going to be excited to talk about that probably next week, but it's things are changing for Lineman Lounge, and so
Yes,
we can work in the future.
Yes, they very much are. So, Evo, I don't know if you got anything. I saw you had some water there, but a little toast to you, my man, for all the shit over the last few years. Thank you, appreciate you.
Agua.
You're awesome. Could not have picked a better partner to do this with, my man. But let's stop fucking jerking each other off and let's talk about some goddamn football. We're going to talk about quarterbacks, but before we start talking about the quarterback prospects, there was some other news that hit close to home for me. The Cleveland Browns have a new quarterback, another new quarterback, but it's an old quarterback. We're getting wacko for Flacco again, baby. Joe Flacco is back in Cleveland on a 1-year deal. He's going to compete in camp with Kenny Pickett and potentially a rookie quarterback. We don't know the name of that guy yet. Hopefully there will be a rookie quarterback competing, because all accounts, Deshaun Watson will not be competing against those two guys. It would make sense. Flacco was not re-signed because of Deshaun Watson. And now Flacco is back. Deshaun Watson is not going to be around. He will probably be at the facility to do some rehab, but I cannot imagine that's going to be a conducive work environment after everything that's gone down.
Yeah, it's kind of like the situation maybe that happened with Garoppolo, obviously less contentious, but where Garoppolo's like working out around the team type thing, but he's not really at the facility. Like when your owner comes out and says, it was a big swing and a miss, and is basically calling an end to that era, if you will. You're not in a financial situation where you can afford to just cut the guy. He has to technically be there, at least on the roster. And as a professional athlete who has some sort of aspirations towards competing again, he's going to do his part, to try to keep what PR he can and work towards his craft. But yeah, it's a lot of Super Bowl experience, even Super Bowl winning experience that you do have on the roster now. So in many ways, you can look at yourself as being set. But yeah, look, Kenny Pickett obviously has come out and said that he, isn't there to just hang around. He wants to compete, which is what you want.
Of course,
from
you say that.
And you had the kind of the magic that Joe Flacco brought a couple years ago, and you saw how, that team was able to be successful. It's why there were such high hopes going into last offseason and into the season that, if we were able to do this with Joe Flacco, all you need is just an average. I think you said this quite a bit. We need just average quarterback play from Deshaun Watson, and we can be a good team. And you just had, a multitude of things kind of go in the wrong direction. Injuries, age, questionable coaching, and it really just fell apart at the seams really, really quick. And I think that the hope, especially there in the front office, is that you can bring back a little bit of what you had 2 years ago and begin an active rebuild, not a full rebuild potentially, and try to get back to where you were. And hopefully all that magic from 2 years ago really didn't slip away. Um, I think that, we'll obviously talk about this when we get into these quarterback prospects, but I don't know that the Browns are a quarterback away from being good. I don't know if they're an organization that's even necessarily ready to accept and take a leap with a rookie quarterback. Um, you saw standout play from guys like Jaden Daniels last year,
Mhm.
Drake May to an extent, Bo Nix to an extent. And I don't think
Well,
this quarterback
flashes from
class,
Caleb Williams.
they were all pretty bad flashes, but there were flashes.
That's not true.
Uh,
He had a couple of games where he flashed.
I,
There was a lot of bad. There's a lot of
it's a
bad.
lot of bad, a lot of bad. But I don't think that any of the guys in this class necessarily stack up to those guys. And Bo Nix is kind of the closest guy to
We'll
that.
see.
But it's, to me, like, those guys, not all of them stepped into great situations, but the situation in Washington, I felt like was headed in the right direction. And obviously Jaden was able to do something that rookie quarterbacks don't do. He was outstanding, and I don't know that you have that in this class. Um, Guys like Drake May still outperform my expectations. I don't think you can expect that every year. I just don't know that you guys' team, your offense, is ready to accept a rookie quarterback and see any sort of real meaningful success in year one. And that's why I would think that going after one of these guys, especially with a high pick, could be a very risky maneuver unless you are really taking a big swing. I know, obviously we're going to talk about this here very shortly, but I know that you're a Shadur guy.
I am very
And
much
I,
so.
I think taking him at pick 2 might be a mistake, but being able to package Shadur with a guy like a Travis Hunter, trying to find a way to make a move to
To
take
come back
Travis
up.
Hunter and come back up and get him, which it sounds like the prospects of that are even kind of dwindling more and more with.
Yeah, with the Giants getting that extra workout in, it makes me think
I'm not
that
even concerned about that. I'm concerned with the Saints, which is the scuttlebutt.
oh yeah,
That's some
because
of our
now
other
with
news.
Carr, yeah.
Derek Carr shoulder injury might not be available early this year or the entire year.
I think it's
And
probably going to be the entire year. I would imagine that this late in the game, he might try to push to come back just because of some money implications, but I don't think he's going to be able to. And he's nearing the point in his career where like, he's not going to recover from these types of things.
there's some real shenanigans at foot, I think, with this, because I don't know that, obviously the Saints weren't like completely tied to him as the future at their quarterback position. I think that they're looking towards ways of moving off of him sooner than later.
Yeah, good
Then you
luck.
bring in your new head coach, and you have Carr's brother, not David Carr, but the other one that's a coach somewhere, throwing out tweets comparing stats of them when they both played college football together and everything. And it seemed like there was already like that little bit of contentious relationship potentially.
Right.
Um, and you look at the Saints, the last time, do you know who the last quarterback that they drafted was in the first round?
The Saints,
Yes,
Manning, Arch Manning.
Arch Manning. And
Yeah.
you look at next year, highly likely that Archie Manning
Or
is
Archie
one
and
of
then Arch.
those.
Yeah, yeah. Either way.
Well, so
How I don't it was Archie in the day and now it's Arch, right?
yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, and so it's highly likely that he comes out in the draft next year. Maybe they're trying to enact some sort
I
of
don't know.
gratuitous reunion with
They're
the families.
trying to play the game a little bit. He could stay for 2 years, depending.
Yeah, and so it feels like that situation, there might be some strings being pulled in the back. That's if you really think that this whole NFL is a puppet show of them trying to create situations like that. It's fun stories, fun narratives for sure. I think that's why the Rodgers stuff gained so much steam with my team, is that they're trying to,
I love the new report. Have you seen that he was pitching to the Vikings?
yeah,
That
which the Albert Breer report was actually very good, very well done. Not just because, I mean, what's caught the headlines from that obviously was the Aaron Rodgers piece. That's
yeah.
what is really being pushed around. But it went very deep into the Vikings process with JJ McCarthy, both last offseason and this offseason, which made me super happy to hear the things that we heard. Like his first times when he was not in training camp but out there with the team, how he was very rough. The coaching staff basically sent him away with, hey, this is what we want you to work on, study as far as your footwork and reads and getting quicker with this stuff. And that by the time that he came back to training camp, he had exceeded their expectations. They were throwing more and more on his plate, and he just kind of kept on exceeding what they were expecting, to the point that he went in that first preseason game versus the Raiders, throws an interception on his first pass, comes right back from it and looks fantastic the whole time. They said, we've gotten this guy maybe 10 reps with the starters in camp, and we're going to give him more going into Cleveland. And then he comes back and says, hey, my knee's kind of hurting. Yeah. By all accounts, from what is being reported by Albert Breers, they were going to give him a legitimate shot at that point to win the starting job from Sam Darnold, and have a true competition through the rest of camp. And that he was exceeding their expectations then. And we obviously saw what Sam Darnold was able to do through the entire season. I've obviously felt like he could be a better quarterback than Sam Darnold in the long run, and I was very happy with what Sam did last year. But then to hear the way that Kevin O'Connell has talked about, their process this offseason, that he truly has been in the building every single day from the end of the season. And it's all voluntary, that he's there working hard. And that their approach to this offseason is, yes, Aaron Rodgers contacted us.
Yeah.
He had a pitch of, I will take little money. I just want to go on a championship run. I will be a good mentor to this guy. We can go from there. And if on face value, if you take the name Aaron Rodgers out of it, you kind of have to listen. I understand this is a guy who's gone to Super Bowls and things like that, a veteran. And coming off a 14-win season, you have to look at your options of how can we, go when the fire's hot, strike when the iron's hot. So I get that, but that they feel so confident in what McCarthy's done and how he's progressed that they said, you know what, we appreciate that offer. We like where we're at with McCarthy. We're going to see how he does in the spring. And I believe that, we're looking in the June timeframe of when training camp starts, that if he's still looking how they expected him to be last year and how his recovery is going, that if that's all on track, they're going to just continue to run with him. If heaven forbid something is derailed, he does not look like the same player. His injury doesn't look where it should be, which by all accounts he's fully recovered from this. Then yeah, I think they want to leave that whole Rodgers situation on the table. Obviously, my prediction of him signing with Pittsburgh on the 9th didn't happen, but also that makes sense. Rodgers can sit back. He can see what all these teams do in the draft, what the Saints do in the draft, what Pittsburgh does in the draft. If they go after a quarterback, if it's a situation that he would want to be in, and then he can sit and wait through voluntary workouts and everything, not have to go be a part of this and go on his ayahuasca trips or whatever. And he can then probably, because he's a bad person, hope that McCarthy gets hurt and that the Vikings come call him. It's like, it makes sense from his perspective.
He's going to sign with Pittsburgh, man. I mean, it didn't happen on the day. Didn't happen on the date you hoped for, but I'm pretty sure that's still going to happen at some point. It'll be after the draft, after everything else goes down. Now, what we're going to draft somebody in this draft. Whether that's early, late, I don't know. There's some guys in this draft that I think could maybe stick around the league for a long time later in the draft. There's a couple guys that I am dead set against, especially where their draft position is slotted right now. Joe Flacco doesn't inspire any hope in me right now, because I saw what Joe Flacco was at the end with the Browns, and I saw what he was last year when he couldn't hold the job against Anthony Richardson.
That Colts organization, though, I mean,
yeah, that's tough.
Look, Joe Flacco is a aging veteran with high volatility. That is kind of what there is, but that high volatility still helped you guys tremendously from where you were with quarterbacks prior to him, getting under center. And so there's still some of that there.
Yeah, I mean, so we're going to get some of the explosive plays. It's going to be fun to watch football until we inevitably make a mistake late in the game and we, lose. But I just know that my options for this year at quarterback should not be Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and somebody who can actually potentially take us and compete for a chance to win. But I agree with your assessment. Like the Browns are a little ways away from being competitive. I think we got old. We gotta draft some linemen. We gotta get some line. Joel Bitonio is back. Now we signed some offensive linemen. Our tackle spots are still in disarray. We still don't have our running back room necessarily in order. Nick Chubb's still on the market. We're going to draft the guy, but I would love to see Nick Chubb come back on a
Look, he's
one-year
squatting a
deal.
lot. That makes me feel a lot better about that knee.
Yeah, me as well, man. It's Nick Chubb. I never doubted the man. He's not going to get the same amount of money. I want him to come back, and I would love for him to find a way to finish his career here in Cleveland. We're going to figure out how it all works out, how the money works out. But this quarterback room doesn't excite me in the least bit. We need a shot of adrenaline. I'm all in on Shedeur. When it comes to the mock draft next week, depending on who I decide to give this number 2 pick to, they're probably going to want to take Shedeur. We'll see how it goes. But I'm all in on him. Speaking of next week, a couple more guests that are confirmed. We got X and Jo from the OTC crew as well. I think that might be it.
Alrighty. Well, look, obviously you are passionate about Shedeur.
I am, man.
Are really like him. And I'll paraphrase kind of something that Adam Schefter said here very recently is when you're going after a quarterback here in the first round, especially with a high pick, you don't pick him because you like him. You pick him because you love him. That's the guy that you think can be your guy. All it takes is one team to believe that that's their guy and to be willing to take him at the draft slot. And then they are worthy of that first round pick, at least in the moment. And so I don't fault anyone or any team for having that sort of conviction. I don't fault you for having that conviction over Shedeur Sanders. We're going to differ on our opinion on this one. We know that. And it sounds way more pejorative than it really should, because I don't dislike Shedeur Sanders. I just kind of dislike some of the hype. And I feel like it's not, I don't even want to say hype. It's just the draft position where he typically is going.
I feel like we're going to have this exact same conversation a lot, because I'm going to say the exact same thing about a couple of the guys that I know that you like in terms of their draft position. It's not that I dislike them per se. It's just not the.
Well, then I think we might be a lot closer, not necessarily like in our rankings of them, but we might be closer in some of our thoughts of like where this guy should go, not necessarily where they will go, because the NFL is always desperate for quarterbacks. And I feel like that desperation, more often than not, leads you into a situation where there is a lack of success. And that's my fear for you, because I want to see your Browns do good. And I think that there's got to be certain contingencies put in place in order to create that successful situation for a rookie quarterback, Shedeur or otherwise. But with that, do you want to get into our breakdown of looking at some of these quarterbacks?
Oh, yeah, let's do it, brother. I'm ready to do this. This is one of my favorite shows every year because there's always some contention. This is the one where if we have a disagreement, we kind of stand on that shit a little bit. We go at these ones a little bit more because, like, I'm not going to argue with you about a wide receiver or a running back. You know what? We can have different opinions, but it seems like quarterback is where we always get that sticking point. I remember going at Zach Wilson. I remember going at Bryce Young. I got probably a couple of surprises in here as well, just because I like to be that guy. Also, I've been pretty fucking good about calling my quarterbacks since we've started doing this.
For sure. All righty. Well, look, the obvious one here is at the top, the guy who's kind of consensus right now as being like the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Not necessarily the number 1 player in the draft. Obviously, PFF here has him as their 21st ranked player. But the guy who is typically expected, I believe, as of right now, 93.3% projection to go as the number 1 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward out of the University of Miami. Guy is a interesting prospect, a guy who I definitely like, someone that caught my attention during this college football season. Dual threat quarterback, big, lively arm. It's just, we've seen increases in his production every year. But obviously there's question marks on him. I think easier for us to compare previous year's drafts to current year's drafts and how those stocks kind of look. And Cam Ward is one of those guys that I think brings a lot to the table, but there's those questions are larger than a lot of the quarterbacks that were in last year's draft. I have him slated somewhere in as like if he were in last year's draft, quarterback 4, 5, 6, something in that range in the Penix to Bo Nix type of range. I personally had McCarthy because I'm a believer in McCarthy. I had McCarthy higher, and that's why I was very happy for my Vikings to go out there and get him where they did. But, Cam Ward, because of some of the question marks that he has, I had him rated a little bit lower. I think that, top end, we could see that sort of Cam Newton style production. And my biggest questions with him is he going to go to the right spot to develop? I'm not sure Tennessee is the right spot for him to develop. He seems like the perfect prototype type of fit for Brian Dable. That's where I think that you could get a lot out of him because he is no Josh Allen, but Dable knows how to work with a guy who is bigger, mobile, has a lively arm, and obviously you need to, rein in some of the, issues and accuracies, decision making, things like that, which he was obviously able to do there with Josh Allen.
Yeah, man. Listen, Cam has got a laser fucking arm, quick release, tons of athleticism, but he makes boneheaded decisions, dude. And it doesn't necessarily get better like in the scramble drill. Like a guy as good as him athletically and gets out of the pocket, he makes worse decisions. Like he could just take off and get yards, but he forces way too many throws. Also his mechanics, I have some issues with, some concerns with. The eyes and the feet, they don't really match up very well. He gets a lot of errant throws because of that. If you flush him at all, if you move him off the spot, like that's when everything starts to break out. Now I know he's done work in the draft prep to work on his mechanics. I know that that's happened. But anytime you start to get a guy under a little bit of pressure or make them uncomfortable, the first thing that they do is revert back to their old habits because that's what they're comfortable with. That's what they know. And if for Cam, reverting back to those bad habits is a really bad thing. That is one of the things that worries me is because his accuracy issues are due to his mechanics, and his mechanics break down when you flush him. And this is the fucking NFL. He's gonna see pressure. Like he's, I guess the grade there, you can see the pressure grade really, really low. He needs some NFL coaching, and he needs a safe playbook to start his career. He needs the kid gloves on early. And you said earlier, I'm not sure if Tennessee is the right spot. Brother, I'm not sure either because they got to look to run the ball like they did with Derrick Henry, and they got to wait for him to catch up to the speed of the game because I think the game is going to be too fast for Cam to start. He's not that kind of processor. Like crazy arm talent. Crazy arm talent. But I have some concerns. I have some worries about Cam.
Yeah, look, one of the things that is said on the PFF sheet here is that like he has shades of Ben Roethlisberger to him. And I kind of get that as well. Like he's got a wild, lively arm. He'll do kind of some crazy stuff. You do have to rein him in and get him used to that speed of play. If you look purely at the stats, you would think like this guy is Joe Burrow. Just based on his passing stats.
This is in multiple universities. He did it in a low division. He did it at Washington State. He goes to Miami and does it at all ACC level. So he's proved that he can improve. So that is a big plus for Cam Ward, for sure. But that doesn't mean he's not without his warts. So like you can see the progress. You see the progression. You see the step ups in competition. So there's not to suggest that I think that Cam is not good. I want to preface that I like Cam Ward, but he has some warts.
Yeah, for sure. That's it. Or at least I know I have quite a few times brought up how certain guys can play almost like with a reckless abandon, like a Jay Cutler. He's not at that level yet, but he's got that sort of an arm, that sort of arm talent. And obviously he's way more mobile than Jay Cutler ever was. But like this is a guy that you do, I think, need to rein into an extent. It's just it is a tough line to toe because part of why Cam Ward is probably going to be the number one pick here is because he has that little bit of magic to him where he can make pretty crazy things happen. Not Patrick Mahomes level or anything like that, but that mobility and that kind of gunslinger, reckless abandon nature can put you in spots where some pretty impressive things happen. But you do need to find a way to balance that out appropriately within a playbook and within a system. I don't dislike Callahan as a coach, but you would have thought that if he would have been able to do a little bit more of that with a Will Levis, like coach him into a better spot. And we did not see that at all.
Well,
maybe that's the player or the coach. Who
yeah.
knows? But like we're going to get our second attempt at it here with Callahan here because he's probably going to take Cam Ward and we're going to be able to see is he able to really truly mold this guy on a roster that's not fantastic by any means. I don't know that they have the sort of playmakers at all what Miami had. Not that Miami had great playmakers out there, but like you're taking a huge leap up in competition, but you're not getting a leap up in talent surrounding him necessarily. And so a lot is going to be, especially early on, thrust onto Cam Ward's shoulders. Is he going to be able to hold up to that? Is he going to be able to grow and progress? And is Callahan in that scheme correct for him to do that? It scares me a lot. I feel like, if New York, if the Giants were able to find a way to get to pick one, this would be the sort of guy that a Dable really could work with, where there are some good offensive weapons already in place on that team. They need some line work for sure, but you've got a running back in Tyrone Tracy that you don't feel terrible about. You've got receivers there that you don't feel terrible about that can do some pretty electric things. And you've got a coach that has already got a blueprint for trying to mold the type of guy like this. It seems like too great for him.
It would be the perfect move.
The Titans
They'll have to trade up.
And the flip flop is that I think Shedeur Sanders works a lot better as well on this Titans team because that's much more of a Joe Burrow-esque type of play. Do not take at all that I'm saying Shedeur is Joe Burrow, but it is way closer to that style of play compared to the Cam Ward style of play. It would just make too much sense for these two teams to flip picks. And obviously the Titans could use a little bit of draft compensation in return to try to help build this roster. That seems like too perfect of a situation, but it sounds like the Titans are kind of hell-bent at this point on taking Cam Ward. I would say if that trade were to go down on draft night, I would not personally be that surprised because if I'm the New York Giants, if I'm Joe Schoen and Dable, where my job is on the line like theirs is, I'm probably giving up way too much to move in a position to take Cam Ward.
Dude, there's no way. They signed fucking Russell and Jameis Winston.
That's your safety net. That's your safety net because the chances of them, I guarantee they've already had the conversations with the Titans, and the Titans are just like, nah, we're going to just do what we're going to do.
They're going to take it. Well, and here's the thing. Cam, based on all of the athleticism and the arm talent, I guess you could say that Cam probably has the highest ceiling based on some of the physical things. There's a lot that goes into playing quarterback. The Titans don't have a ton of weapons. They have a decent running game. I think they should look at tight end in this draft. It's a very deep tight end draft. You can even get Elijah Arroyo from Miami in the third round, fourth round, probably.
Potentially, yeah.
So, I mean, like, there's no way that there's going to be a move off of this. It's going to be Cam. It's just going to be can Tennessee overcome some of the warts that Cam is going to bring with him? He has the chance to be electric. But I feel like this, it almost feels like Caleb Williams, but the physical talents aren't as quite as high. Because I also have Cam Ward around that same range as where we had a lot of those guys last year, that Bo Nix, Michael Penix range.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, he's not as Caleb Williams in college was definitely that pull a rabbit out of your hat type of guy, which is what excited people so much about him We haven't seen that sort of thing happen outside of, like Patrick Mahomes really in the NFL recently. So where he's just able to magically make things happen through sheer luck, talent, and ability. Cam Ward is by no means that type of guy, but his mobility will provide him the opportunity to make some special things happen potentially. Again, you just got to find a way to find that balance with him.
Do you worry about his slot at all? The arm slot?
Yes and no. I that's where the coaching really is going to come into play. Whether or not Callahan feels like he needs a little bit more of a traditional throwing style. Obviously, we've seen some quarterbacks go through relatively large changes. Josh Allen again comes to mind with footwork and the slot and how he throws. I don't think that you have to do that, and sometimes it could probably hurt a guy. Guys like an Anthony Richardson need more of that coaching, I think, because that kind of wild style creates variability. But it's very situationally dependent. I think that is the way that he plays is part of what makes Cam who he is. So you don't want to move off of it too much. Footwork absolutely could use some work. And I think you start to clean that up in some of the other mechanics, start to clean up along with it. But I'm not super concerned with that, at least at this point.
All right, brother. So at the end of this, we'll give our rankings. I imagine that you have your quarterbacks ranked.
Yeah, I mean, top 3, 4-ish, yeah, something like that. I think that when you get to the more middle round guys or day 2 and beyond guys, it is really a soup de jour. You choose what you want, for your situation, and that can change where those guys get picked pretty heavily. I mean, we're going to talk about Tyler Shuck. You have these talks about him going high second round, and I've never had him there. I do like some of the stuff that you have, but obviously some people feel really high on him.
I have seen him in the first round. People in Cleveland are batshit fucking crazy, thinking that they're going to trade up. The Browns are going to trade up into the first round for Shuck. And if that happens, I'm fucking out, dog. I'm out.
Yeah, that I think would be a big mishandling of your draft capital. But that's not to say I don't dislike Tyler Shuck, and I don't think that he would
I don't
be
dislike Tyler Shuck either, but not that fucking range.
Absolutely. And I don't think that he would be a terrible pick for you guys if you are going with more of the strategy of we're going to have scapegoat quarterback this year and look towards next year. But either way, we'll obviously get to Tyler Shuck. Shedeur Sanders, your guy, your heartthrob, the one that you long after. I will let you go ahead and talk a little bit on Shedeur here.
All right, man. So listen, he has an average arm. The release is average, is slow. He's an average athlete. Doesn't really have any elite physical traits. But what he does have is elite decision making, and he is tough as fuck. He will hang in a pocket and deliver. And he knows where the ball is supposed to be and when it's supposed to be there. And the thing that's crazy to me is that there might not be a more scrutinized prospect in this draft or at the quarterback position than Shedeur, maybe in the last even decade. The most scrutinized quarterback prospect. And it's weird to me because a couple of years ago, we had Bryce Young, who, by all accounts, is a midget for an NFL quarterback. Has not excellent arm strength. But you know what everybody raved about is how smart he was, how intelligent he was on the board, how he knew everything pre and post snap. And nobody had a fucking problem with taking him number 1 overall. Not a single physical trait that was elite, but was elite on the board. Nobody batted an eye. Shedeur Sanders is a better prospect than fucking Bryce Young was. He's got probably a stronger arm. He's more prototypically sized. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then you talk about other guys that didn't have your elite arm strength. Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. two guys that immediately come to mind. Now, I'm not saying that Shedeur Sanders is going to be Drew Brees or Peyton
That's what I heard.
Thank you. But you can absolutely win in the NFL without having elite level arm strength and arm talent if you're an excellent processor, if you know where the ball's supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there. Shedeur gets it out early, so he doesn't have to worry about these closing tight windows. He throws with anticipation, man. And he's also a better prospect than Bryce Young 2 years ago. He's a better prospect than Bo Nix last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think Bo Nix was overdrafted last year for sure too. Despite his production that first year.
Yes. And you know who else had Bo Nix had a ton of completions at or around the line of scrimmage. Very similar to what Shedeur Sanders is, right? We tore Bo Nix apart last year for it. And you know what? Bo Nix proved us fucking wrong. Shedeur is a better processor than Bo Nix. He has more arm talent than Bryce Young. I don't understand why he's being talked down so badly. If his last name's not Sanders, there's not this level of fucking scrutiny. I don't understand it. He is the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft. And honestly, if he goes to the right spot, he might be the best quarterback in this draft because he knows the game. He is playing quarterback at a high level. He's just not doing it with high physical talents. So Cam Ward's ceiling may be higher because of the physical talents, but week one starter, if I had to choose between those two, give me Shedeur Sanders every time because I think he could go in there and run my offense way more efficiently than a Cam Ward could.
Okay. Look, I don't know that I necessarily disagree with anything that you said. That still doesn't spell to me number 2 overall pick worthy of a quarterback. It sounds
Bryce Young went 1.
I don't know that Bryce Young should have went 1. Like the NFL will take guys where they shouldn't out of desperation. That's the biggest thing. And I know that.
Yeah, but CJ Stroud was right there too. They chose Bryce Young over CJ Stroud because of the things that he could do in his mind. Why are we not applying the same fucking logic? Is it because Bryce Young didn't work out as well as everybody had hoped? Is that what we're gonna now where everybody's changing the philosophy?
I can't speak for bad organizations.
Yeah, okay.
That was a mistake. That was a pretty obvious mistake. That's one that, especially on this show, was called out pretty regularly. That I know you felt CJ Stroud should have gone ahead of Bryce Young. And that draft overall, you had desperate teams going for quarterbacks, but you had the Texans who brought in a new regime and they started to really right that ship. And CJ Stroud was, they struck gold on him. I think he exceeded my expectations for sure. Like I thought CJ Stroud could have been a very good quarterback in the draft, but I didn't expect him to do what he did in year 1 for sure. And like, again, I'll preface this by saying I don't dislike Shedeur. I don't think that he is that number 2 overall pick style quarterback. At least if we're just going like purely like a big board ranking, I don't have him there. For a lot of the reasons that you said as well is why I don't have him there. It's like, can he be a very good quarterback? Can he be the best quarterback in this draft? I don't doubt it. But I don't see him as that guy that goes out there and really, really like you're going to have guys that, run an offense well, are good quarterbacks for their team, but you don't want to throw a Trent Dilfer out there. That can win you a Super Bowl for sure, but if you're taking a guy with the number 2 overall pick, you're hoping for a guy that really moves the needle. Now, for your Browns, anybody's going to move the needle at this point, probably. Okay. And that's what my fear is for you, is that you guys will overlook other potential blue chip generational style talents like a Travis Hunter or something.
We're taking Travis Hunter too. I know that's happening. But if we can find a way to get back up for Shedeur, I'd love that.
And that's the pipe dream that I have been pushing for a minute, is if you are able to find a way to reunite those guys, it creates a different situation because Shedeur Sanders, while I don't feel like he is and this is going to sound like a weird dichotomy here, I don't view him as a first round talented quarterback, but in today's NFL, he is worthy of a first round pick because of how desperate teams are. And I view him as a second half of the first round type of guy. That's where that's where his range starts to really come into play. If we were taking a guy based off the big board, he's a second round guy. All right. But you will see those guys come into the first round because teams want the fifth year option. They're desperate for the quarterback play. And that makes more sense to me. When you guys are sitting there at pick 33, that's within striking range to go and get a guy to me. But because it is for a quarterback and everyone will know what you're doing to move up for him, you're going to have to pay a premium.
Get fleeced, yeah.
Right. But if we're looking at the perfect situation for you guys of getting Travis Hunter and moving back up to get him, that's where I'm willing to take that sort of a cost of pick 33, extra change this year, and probably at least a first next year, probably a little bit more than that. Like a first and a third next year, 33 this year, and probably like I've run a lot of PFF mock draft simulators, and depending on how far back you're able to get him, like you can start to mitigate some of that cost. But I don't know that you're going to be able to at that point. If you go as high as, we'll say, a pick 15 type of range, or if you have to go even higher to try to beat out the Saints, then a first and a third next year, and 33 and every other pick this year. Not every single pick, but every other pick. So you still have draft picks this year, but like that's the sort of like compensation that I think that you get fleeced for to have to move up that high because you guys have a shitload of picks.
Yeah.
But that creates, look, it is a 1 year big hurt. Next year hurts a little bit more, but you're not going to be in that quarterback market anyway. So you don't really necessarily need that first round pick to start really maneuvering. And now you're talking about an exciting situation for your team there, where I don't know that this is the year, but by next year, you're talking about a core where you can kind of be excited about it. In a Shedeur and Travis Hunter, that I think is obviously your perfect scenario, but that is counting your chickens before it hatches, of course, because there's 31 other teams and several of them that obviously aren't going to be in play for Shedeur, but a lot of other teams out there that can do some wonky ass shit in order to try to maneuver to get a guy that they feel like could be a quarterback in the future for them. Like I don't really have a whole lot to add on Shedeur as far as like who he is as a player, the talent that he has. I think he's talented, but I don't think that he is special in the same way that we would talk about other guys that you would think or expect in redrafts would be top 5, top 10 picks in the league. I think that he can absolutely be an average quarterback. I think the high end value out of him is like a Jared Goff. Like I think that that is the type of quarterback that he could be. And you look at that Lions team over the last 2 seasons, a lot of teams would be willing to give up their quarterback and take a Jared Goff, right?
Yeah.
And I absolutely would love to see that for Shedeur. I would love to see that for whatever team that he goes to. But Jared Goff wasn't Jared Goff from the last 2 years for a big part of his career. He was a quarterback with upside and issues, and it took a while for him to get there in the right situation, the right coaching staff. And again, like I don't know that that is the right situation there in Cleveland with Stefanski and how it feels like
that's the perfect scheme fit. If Stefanski stays and is the guy, Shedeur is the perfect fucking scheme fit.
Your scheme right now is kind of shit, though.
No. We're going back to Stefanski's wide zone. We're going back to what we used to do. That was good. That's when it worked. When we went and brought in fucking Ken Dorsey is when they screwed it all up.
A scheme doesn't matter if you're coaching shit, though. That's my fear. And so the way that
Stefanski's a schmuck.
By all reports, Stefanski is like the leader in the room that is not a leader and really doesn't have the team's respect.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of lost to the room, in my opinion. But that's what makes it a little bit more exciting, even more so if you do get a Travis Hunter and a Shedeur Sanders, both who are having their numbers retired by Colorado. I don't care that Dion got a new contract there. Dion will walk to go be with his son and his blue chip star prodigy and Travis Hunter. And again, you will have the Cleveland Brown
Brown
Buffaloes.
Buffaloes.
And that is headlines galore. That is ticket sales. That is jersey sales. That is something your ownership will get behind. Obviously, they've been willing to, forego financials to go out and take the big swing and miss on a Deshaun. I don't think that they're going to look at an insane trade package to move back up to get a Shadur somewhere else in the first round as a gigantic failure by Andrew Berry, at least not in the moment. I think that the ownership would be absolutely on board for it because you got a chance of success there, at least on the football field, but you absolutely will have a financial success at the box office, at the jersey sales. Like it's all there. Like I said, I like Shadur. I think the right situation, he could be very profitable for a team. I do not like him in that top 10 pick range as far as value goes.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. I understand. But when you need a quarterback, you got to go out and get a quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice when the value and the need matches up. It rarely does in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that disparity causes desperate teams to make those picks, and it just almost never works out.
Yeah.
You guys are in a situation where you can make an argument that Travis Hunter is not necessary on your team. Theoretically, you've got Jerry Jeudy, some receiving talent there. Cedric Tillman, you do not have the worst receiving room in the NFL. You do not have the worst defensive back room in the NFL.
No.
But if a guy like Travis Hunter is sitting there looking you in the face, you would much rather take that sort of a potential generational unicorn talent than let him go somewhere else, in my opinion. The Vikings had Chris Carter and Jake Reed. They didn't need to take a Randy Moss.
Right.
But they did.
Obviously,
much later in the draft. And no one faults them for that shit. Like, it would just be sad for me to see you guys let a guy like that move on. Do I think that you need to take a quarterback in this draft? Probably, because I think that when you don't have a guy, you need to just take dart throws as much as possible. The higher up in the draft, the more that you scout a guy, the better those dart throws are. And with a guy like Shadur, I think that his value range in that pick 15 and later range in the first round, it's perfectly acceptable at that point, as long as it means that you did not pass up that blue chip in the beginning.
If Shadur Sanders goes to Pittsburgh and then I have to get tormented by Shadur Sanders for the next fucking 15 to 20 years, I'm going to be furious. That's all I'm going to say. Because we had a chance at Ben Roethlisberger too.
Yeah, for sure. You've had a chance at
We had a chance at Lamar Jackson. We had a chance at a lot of
like everyone had a chance
guys.
at Lamar. Did Josh Allen? Like guys, a lot of guys.
If he goes to fucking Pittsburgh, I'm going to be furious.
Alrighty. Well, look, I think this next guy, Jalen Milroe, on this list is interesting. Not because I think he's that good, but how the fuck did this guy get invited to the fucking draft up in Green Bay? What are we missing? And are now, because of this, like you're seeing not only stock rise, but you're getting way more conversations about him as being maybe not a first round guy, but he could be one of those, a team sneaks up to pick 31, 32 just to get the fifth year option on him. Wow. I, evaluation wise, am pretty far off on Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, brother. I have a lot of quarterbacks in front of him.
Like, I think you have to start really playing some mind games and some tricks to sell yourself on him. Like, don't get me wrong. He's an athlete. He's a great runner. He is essentially a running back in many ways. We've seen this play out. People try to catch the Mike Vick, Lamar Jackson fire. Right now, Anthony Richardson is kind of almost that guy where you have insane arm talent, piss poor accuracy, but the guy can run the ball really well. Like Milroe scares me. The proposition of him scares me a lot. And to think that a team might try to bet on that is also very scary. Like it gets brought up again a lot here with the Giants, how Daboll was able to do magical things with Josh Allen. if that was the standard, every team would do that. They would take a guy, they would develop him for a couple years, deal with the aches and pains of a bad arm, and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got an MVP quarterback, dual threat type of guy. Every team would do that. But every team isn't doing that. A lot of teams are taking swings at it, but it just does not work out that often. Jalen Milroe, to me, hasn't shown enough in college as a passer to warrant being taken in the first or second round as a quarterback. But this guy screams Malik Willis to me.
Oh, brother. Okay, so I mean, Malik Willis is interesting. So I'm going to read exactly what I wrote because I feel like it's the only way to truly capture my feeling. Like, and I've been rocking the hashtag no Milrow or no to Milrow for a while on the X, but this first fucking sentence is the most true thing I've ever said about anybody. He's not fucking Lamar Jackson. Stop comparing him to Lamar. Yeah, he is insanely athletic.
A closer comparison, I think, would be a Jalen Hurts, but I think that's even trying to do a disservice to Hurts.
Agreed. He's a nightmare to tackle. But he is even less polished as a passer than Lamar Jackson was coming out of college. Like, everything that he throws hard as he fucking can. He does not see the field, and he is easily confused by coverages. He bails out trying to make superhero plays with his legs, tries to force the ball into windows that they're simply not there because he thinks his arm strength is good enough for it. He should be on an NFL team, but not as a fucking quarterback. Like, if you wanted to talk about a guy who's an athlete who can go out there and make football plays, this dude will you can find a spot for this dude on a football team anywhere.
Taysom Hill has a job.
Yes, but he's not throwing the ball. And Jalen Milroe shouldn't be throwing the ball in the NFL. And if you want to ask how I know that, go ask any Indy fan how the fuck they're doing right now. Ask them how their uber athletic quarterback who has massive problems completing passes is doing. Tell me if you want to sign up for Anthony Richardson again. That's what Jalen Milroe is. He is so far down my list of quarterbacks. He's not a quarterback. He is an athlete. He is a stud athlete who should be in the NFL because he is probably one of the best athletes on the planet. But he's not a quarterback.
I don't have a problem with the proposition of him being drafted to play quarterback. I have a difficult issue with you thinking that, or not you, but anyone thinking that this guy is going to be a starter within the next 2 to 3 years. This is a day 3, round 4 or later, stash him, create packages, wildcat type shit, and you again take that dart throw and see if you can develop him. See if you can develop that arm into something, because it can happen. It is just not worth the gamble whatsoever to me. Day 1, day 2
round. They're talking about this guy in the first round. I swear. Now, his name has been brought up a lot in Cleveland. A lot. If we trade up to get Jalen Milroe, I will lose my fucking mind. That's completely opposite of what Kevin Stefanski would want to do. Jalen Milroe doesn't play on time. He is a one-read guy. As soon as it's not there, he fucking takes off. Now, granted, he's uber athletic and makes a lot of great plays, but it's so quick. It's so fast. I don't see the hype. I don't see the first round thing. I don't see the second round. I was going to say third round pick for me is where I had him, like late third round, day 3. I understand that as well. But like, there's nothing that I have seen him do that says this guy's an NFL quarterback.
If he's third round, it's compensatory pick type of range where you're looking at it like, hey, this is a kind of freebie pick that we got anyways.
Like a flyer.
Take a shot. But yeah, to me, it's fourth round or later because of that developmental need. Like, he looked bad in the bowl processes, like the Senior Bowl and stuff like that. But he changed his mechanics all up at the combine. He looked great. It's the same shit that I talked about earlier. When you get into pressure, when things break down,
the first thing that you are going to do is revert back to your old habits. And his bad habits are terrible.
Yeah, it's rough. You really do need to put him in the correct situation with there's patience
Yeah.
and a damn fine coach that will work with him not just during the season but in the off season in those mechanics, because it's rough. But look, again, I think the conversation about him has really caught fire because the NFL invited him to the combine. The NFL on one hand likes to watch some of those awkward situations where the guy's
On
sitting and
the
waiting and not
draft,
getting picked.
not the combine. You said the
Yes, yes,
combine.
excuse me. Yeah, the draft up in Green Bay. Like, the NFL kinda likes that because it's, a little bit of drama, but it starts to get awkward really quick.
Yeah, do you think they invited him in so they had somebody to put the camera on for fucking 2 days?
I mean, that'd be a really weird move to do that, but I guess they could. But again, it starts to get really awkward. Like, Will Levis rightfully fell into the second round, and that shit was starting to get pretty awkward. Uh, you don't like to see it for the player, you don't like to see it for the NFL. And it feels like a pity pick at some point. Like, I I'm surprised. Look, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Of course, if you get the invite, show up, even if you think you're going to be a seventh round pick. But like, part of it too is, if I'm Milrow, I would probably have already come out and be like, yeah, I'm coming for night one. Like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but I'm going home after that because probably not getting picked on day one. Like, and I'm not expecting to, type thing.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
you could
weird
go if you're
proposition.
Jalen and be like, "Yeah, I'll just have a good time, fucking
Yeah.
chop it up with everybody who's there."
You
And
get to wear a fancy suit that's, some
yeah, I
Balenciaga
mean
or
that'll
something
be
like that.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I'm still baffled that he got invited, but it is what it is. All right. Thoughts on your Ohio State guy here, Will Howard?
Yeah, man, I like Will. I have Will higher on my board than probably some other people do. So I feel like he has a very similar makeup to Jackson Dart, but I think you can probably get Will Howard later than you can get Jackson Dart. A little better athlete than Jackson. Big, runs well, good outside the pocket, good accuracy from kind of any spot. Better playing from the pocket and on time. He's going to need some NFL coaching. Spent a lot of time at K-State and now 1 year at Ohio State. So he's seen different offenses. He was able to show during the playoffs that he was kind of able to elevate his play a little bit more, and that's kind of an important trait. Like that's one of those Tom Brady-esque, like that leader guy who's able to elevate in those pressure moments. So that's something that I kind of like. The Will Howard hype train hasn't really got off the ground, and it should, because I think that he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in this draft. Everything prototypical size. He's gonna need a little bit of time. He's gonna need some seasoning. NFL coaching. Where are you at on him?
I see a guy who's like a good, decent backup in the NFL. Like, nothing kind of jumps off the film to me. You said that you think that he's a better athlete than Jackson Dart. I kind of disagree with that. I view him as a little bit more like a guy who's not a statue by any means, but a little bit more of a Nick Folesy type of guy. Like, not special arm, but a good arm, like adequate. It seems like he was a little bit more willing to be check down type of guy, but not the best under the major pressure, or high leverage moments. But he
I
does
mean,
check a lot of those boxes as far as height, weight, speed, sort of stuff for like a prototypical quarterback, pocket style quarterback. And I think part of why he did as well as he did, you have to look at the talent that was around him. I mean, Ohio State team was pretty damn good. So, like, it's akin to, how Sam Darnold did so good with the Vikings last year. Like, he's got some physical talents and everything like that, but also it's a target rich environment. Like, you are in an environment built to make you look good and make everything look good. And despite that, I still feel like there were some inadequacies with him. Will Howard's a guy that I have third, fourth round, something like that, where it's like you can take him, develop him into a good, decent backup quarterback who you're not going to feel terrible about if he has to start some games. Is there starter potential in him? I'm not so sure of that. But he's all right, but he's not like a guy that I'm clamoring for or anything like that. I've got guys later on this list that I do like better, not just Jackson Dart.
Okay. All right.
All right. Riley Leonard, thoughts on him?
I'm not really a big Riley Leonard guy. Showed a lot of moxie during the playoff run. I'll give him that. But I think that Riley Leonard at best is a 6th, 7th round pick. Maybe catches on, practice squad guy, long-term backup as a peak in his career. That's kind of where I see Riley. He's good size, but I just don't see a guy that I do anything with other than take a late round flyer on.
Yeah, you love the effort that we saw in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That's a good locker room team type of guy, someone that you're willing to bet on a little bit. But again, like same sort of thing. Like I have this guy like 5th round and later, probably like cool that he's got some rushing capability to him, a little bit of dual threat. The arm doesn't super excite me, albeit we didn't necessarily get to see a ton of that. That wasn't Notre Dame's style. They were very run heavy with him and their running back situation. So yeah, I'm not like super high on him. We didn't get to see a lot of production because of the scheme fit, but also when we did see him throw, it's not like a JJ McCarthy type situation at Michigan where he didn't throw as much volume as the other guys, but when he did, it was in higher leverage situations and it was really good. Like with him, we saw kind of average, whatever passer with some upside as a runner. So I'm not super high on Riley Leonard personally. All right, Jackson Dart, kind of a tipping point here as far as some quarterback evals go. I do probably have Jackson Dart as my 3rd quarterback in this list. That's not to say that I think that he is fantastic by any means, but pretty damn good production in college. He's a wild man, really good as a runner, lively arm, decision making questions for sure, mechanical questions for sure. If you go based off of some of the reports on the combine and Senior Bowl and stuff like that, it sounds like he's extremely receptive to coaching and takes a lot of the changes that they're requesting of him to do mechanically and stuff like that. Like he's a high upside but really low floor type player for me.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck we're doing here, man. Honestly, it feels like we're doing this again. It's another guy that can't see the field but's going to fly up the draft board. Because you like some of the things you see with his arm. But he doesn't really play quarterback, man. He plays catch. Everything is directly in front of him. He's one read and then he's out of it. He was rarely asked to make full field reads. His arm strength is good, but it's not spectacular. It's not even Zach Wilson good. Like this feels to me like Zach Wilson all over again, but without the higher physical traits. Like because Jackson doesn't have exceptional like field awareness either. He's not an excellent processor. I don't understand the allure. I think it maybe is it the mox? I don't understand what it is. I just don't see it when I watch him play. Nothing that's like, oh man, that's a guy, that's a dude. I don't understand what you're seeing. Listen, there are guys that I have worse than him on this list. We talked about one of Jalen Milroe because Jalen Milroe is not a quarterback, but I don't understand why we're having this because there are no elite physical traits, physical or mental, with Jackson Dart, in my opinion.
I think that the whole talk about him going in the 1st round and whatnot, like he's the type of guy that I feel like is a 2nd round quarterback that you would prefer to develop for a couple years. And I think that, you're really gambling a lot to expect him to be like a top 15 quarterback, but he has the playmaking ability to kind of be special and exciting. It's one of those where he could creep into the 1st round because of the team being desperate and wanting that 5th-year option, and because he does need some little more time to develop. I think a lot of the flaws that we saw him were things that are considered flaws were scheme based, especially there at Ole Miss. Like you said, wasn't expected to read the whole field. It was very first
It's all
read
right
go,
there.
one side of the field, that sort of stuff. And then that's where we don't get to have those behind the scenes conversations where the coaches get to kind of quiz him on his general football knowledge, IQ, and everything. The reports out of that is that, teams were happy and impressed with some of the stuff that he had, but we didn't really get to see that on the field. Us as fans, we can only take those words so far that, some coaches have brought up.
Those
I think that he's
motherfuckers
got,
lie all the time. They
for
lie to
sure,
us every week.
for sure, absolutely. I think that he's got, good running capability, good escapability, uh, uh, being able to maneuver around a pocket. I think that he does lack touch on some of his throws, but I think that his arm is at least above average for NFL strength and everything. And mechanically, he needs to be settled down a little bit in order to be able to have more touch on his passes, better accuracy. Like, he's a guy that I think, again, he's the kind of a high upside guy, low floor, like pretty low floor type of guy. Um, but as someone in the second round in a league that's desperate for quarterbacks, if I take him somewhere in the second round and I get nothing out of him, I'm not like crying about it. Like, I hate to kind of say this because it sounds like bad towards human beings, but he's kind of a throwaway quarterback in many senses. Like, it's a better than a lottery ticket type of odds that he's going to, succeed.
It's
Um,
very Will Levisy again.
it absolutely could be, but I think Will Levis in the right coaching situation could have been developed into a lot different of a quarterback. I still feel that way to an extent about Zach Wilson. Like, Zach Wilson is probably destroyed beyond our comprehension. Though we thought that to
That
an
was
extent, Sam
Gase, right? That
Darnold
was
as well.
Adam Gase that did that.
Yeah, but like, you put these guys, so much of it is the organization that they go to, the willingness of that organization in order to give them good coaching, if that coaching is even there available in that organization. Like, I think that you can get a lot more out of these quarterbacks with good, proper coaching. Their ceilings might be very, very different, regardless. But like, I think that Jackson Dart has the potential of having kind of a average NFL quarterback type of ceiling with kind of some special throws and plays that he did. Because some of the highlight throws that he has are kind of exciting for sure. And that's what excites me about him. But I have no, I don't know, failed. Like, I don't believe that he's a first round caliber quarterback. I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't
And
either.
the same way that I talk about Shadur, where it's like, I don't technically have him ranked on a big board as a first round quarterback. It makes sense to me why he's going to be taken in the first round, because that's absolutely something that a team that's picking in that second half of the first round, they can use, develop, and get a good roster even better with him on there. Jackson Dart's the type of guy that, like, you wouldn't want to bring him in and say, this is our future prospect at quarterback. He's a guy that, like, hey, we are going to give this guy a shot for a couple of years, but we're not going to be heartbroken, and it's not going to prevent us from drafting a quarterback next year if we're in a position where we want to take one. That sort of a guy. It is a gamble, just like every player is. I just think that he has way more potential to turn into a starting level NFL quarterback than some of these guys that we've already talked about, and some of the guys that we're going to talk about here later, as far as even a Tyler Shuck, uh, uh, Will Howard, definitely a Riley Leonard. Like, I think his potential is higher than those guys to be developed into a starting level quarterback rather than just a backup tier level quarterback. And that's the thing with Jackson Dart, is that, like, I think either you succeed or you fail with him. I don't think that he's going to fall into mediocrity as a backup quarterback in this league. I think either you find yourself a guy who is a average to sometimes above average starter, or a guy who's going to be out of the league relatively quick.
Okay, yeah, so I agree with you. He's going to catch on, or he's going to be gone. Will Howard, I like better than I like Jackson Dart. I have Will Howard higher than I got Jackson Dart.
Alrighty, Dylan Gabriel, little guy, a
Yeah,
little bit older, been around the block a whole lot.
yeah.
It's super easy to give the Tua comp. I don't know if it's just because he's got like big head, little body type thing, the general size.
Left-hander, Polynesian.
Yeah, there's a lot there that, you see as similarities, and which is why I've, like, kind of said, I think that he kind of feels like a discount version of a Tua. But there's no doubt that this guy is extremely smart. He's extremely football savvy. the amount that he has traveled to different systems actually works in his benefit, I think, because he's gotten to see so many different ways that organizations are run, coaches coach, different schemes. He's been successful in basically all of them. He, he is a guy that you don't want to take higher than the third round, I think, because he needs seasoning and he's not going to give you that top tier elite level like physical talent. But between the ears, he's got it. And I think that in the right situation, the right schemes, he could be a successful quarterback that could possibly develop into like a average starter.
Yeah. So I feel like the perfect comp is Tua because they're very similar in their games. I don't understand why one of the cons is a lefty quarterback. It's so fucking stupid. Just catch the ball.
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty good guy. Somebody I pinned early on in the process, like, man, I think he's gonna do pretty well in the draft process because he's a very smart quarterback. For me, man, like I am a guy that takes quarterbacking over athleticism. I do not give a fuck about what you do outside of structure. Like, when do you get to that point? Would it be nice to have a guy that's super athletic? Hell yeah. But like for me, it's the things that you do in structure. And Dylan Gabriel is a guy that when things are on time and working right, he's a pretty good quarterback. He proved it kind of all throughout his career. Oregon dictates their tempo. So he gets to play at the pace that he wants to play at. And when he does that, he's really effective. But moving up to the NFL, it's going to be a lot harder. And he's smaller in size. He's a guy that probably hangs around the league for a while. Backup. Would not surprise me if at some point he is backing up Tua just because it's similar styles.
I wouldn't be like if I'm the Dolphins, I'm probably putting him on my list of guys to bring in.
Right.
Because your change of scenery there, if you have to switch from Tua because of a concussion or something like that to Dylan Gabriel, you're not seeing that crazy of a difference. This is a weird proposition that I have to you here is that we're looking at Dylan Gabriel starting here at Oregon, and last year you've got Bo Nix starting at Oregon. Other than their physical dimensions, and Nix is probably a better runner, like the production isn't that much different.
No,
You've got guys who are both like generally viewed as smart, who have been around college football for a while, seen different programs, have some, time at the position. You're not seeing a ton of difference. I think that you could plop Dylan Gabriel in the same situation that Bo Nix was put in last year and see relatively the same sort of production because it's a scheme that is really built to coddle them and promote what they are good at. Like being game management style quarterbacks and stuff like that. Like I don't see that much of a drop off production wise from Dylan Gabriel if he was put in the same exact situation as Bo Nix last year. If anything, it could potentially be better. But we're talking about Dylan Gabriel as a guy that I think you're looking at as a third round type of pick area. Bo Nix went in the first round, pretty high in the first round. And if you look at it the same sort of way, like you're getting a hell of a value of getting Dylan Gabriel, except without any of the pressure of taking a guy in the first round and feeling forced to try to start him right away. You could develop him a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree, man. I like Dylan. I like him as a developmental guy. Third round might be a little rich for me. I have him maybe late third, fourth, but I have him higher than some of the guys we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Quinn Ewers, former Ohio State quarterback.
Okay, so that's very loosely termed because so is fucking Joe Burrow, technically.
Yeah.
Up and down career. But when you say a quarterback has moxie, this is the fucking asshole you think about. It's Quinn Ewers. Like, he's average. He's average as shit. Average arms talent, average processing, average athleticism. He just kind of stares guys down and then eventually makes a throw. And sometimes it works out well. But also, sometimes it doesn't because Quinn makes bad decisions. He's very easily tricked by combo coverages and disguises. But in the right system, if you coddled him, I think he could probably catch on as well because he's got some talent. But it's going to take a long time. You have to develop him. I think he's kind of having a little bit of that Baker Mayfield arc where kind of a douchebag a little bit, needs to be humbled, and then we'll maybe kind of figure it out. For Baker, that didn't happen until the NFL. Quinn, it kind of happened now, and especially during this draft process, because he was viewed as potentially first quarterback off the board at the start of the year if he goes out there and balls out. We're not even fucking thinking about Quinn Ewers in the first 2 rounds. I'm not at this point.
Yeah, I'm way off on that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, he is a day 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
He has some talent, but you're gonna have to coddle the shit out of him.
I really wish that he would have left Texas and played another year in college somewhere. Because obviously he wouldn't have been the starter there next year.
Right.
That's Manning's job. I think that he needs definitely more time to develop. The guy to me is like a 5th round or later type of guy because yeah, he's got some arm talent, but like you look at all these PFF write-up stuff and it's just inconsistent. You need coaching time to clean up some of those inconsistencies if you can. And at the NFL level, where he's going to come in as a 3rd quarterback or a practice squad type of guy, they're only going to give you so much coaching. They can only devote so much time to fixing your inconsistencies because they're going to be focused on the other quarterbacks on their roster more than you. And if he goes to, another school with good quarterback coaching, maybe they can hammer out some of those inconsistencies. Your draft stock gets higher. You get taken next year in a good quarterback class. Probably still not a 1st rounder, but you get taken higher than where you're probably going to be taken this year.
Yeah.
And you're given a little bit more attention to continue hammering out those inconsistencies. I feel like he probably shouldn't have made the jump to the NFL this year.
I agree.
All righty. Kyle McCord, former Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, this one you can actually call him former Ohio State quarterback. Listen, man, I like Kyle. I think that when he left Ohio State, he got better. And I'm saying that as an Ohio State fan. I love Ohio State. I love everything that everybody does, but not everybody at Ohio State is always a quarterback genius. You got to think about this. We had Joe Burrow sitting on the bench, and he transferred away. Okay. One thing that Kyle McCord does understand is how to read coverages, and he has enough arm strength to operate at the NFL. Average athlete, but is pretty good at navigating the pocket. He has a long, slow release, though, which makes you worried because he doesn't necessarily climb very well. So he is going to be susceptible to kind of getting strip sacked. And for all the good things that he does, when things start to go bad for Kyle, they can go fucking tragic. They will turn into a blow up, 5 interception style game.
We saw some pretty rough stuff at the beginning of this year, which made me thought, oh, fuck, it's done for him. And he definitely turned it around.
He did turn it around. When things go bad, he blows up. But I think, like, for me, man, I see Colt McCoy style trajectory. Come in, maybe be a spot starter, hang around the league for a while, and that's kind of where you hang out. That's kind of what I see Kyle McCord's career as. Late round guy, 5th, 6th round, sticks around as a 3rd quarterback in a room, gets some training, some mentorship, and then makes a career banging fucking good-looking women as a backup quarterback in the NFL.
I'm actually higher on him than you are. I think that he's a 4th round guy. My comp both in why he should be taken, where he should be taken, and everything, and what his potential future career arc could be in the NFL is Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
I think that this is a guy that you take in the middle rounds. You feel no pressure, but he's got all of the kind of foundational stuff that you're looking for of more of a pocket style quarterback. Nothing super impressive as far as any of the physical traits, but he does things above average. And Kirk Cousins has made a pretty fucking crazy career out of that. I think that he probably within a year or 2 steps in and becomes a really solid backup quarterback. But if he gets thrust into a situation, much like Kirk Cousins did, where he got to take over for an injured guy, he can lead an offense. He's shown that he can, put up some volume stats. He can absolutely blow up under pressure. And when things go bad, they derail. Kirk Cousins. Like
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
me, like I just get a lot of shades of Kirk Cousins from Kyle McCord, which has been proven to give you a very long NFL career where you can make a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. Colt McCoy made a fuckload of money as a 3rd round pick and a career backup, essentially.
Absolutely. All righty. I don't know if you got any other guys you want to talk about
I got
beyond
Tyler
Shuck, but beyond Tyler Shuck.
Beyond Shuck, not really. No.
Yeah, not
Listen,
me either.
I could talk about Rourke, but I'd rather not. If I'm being honest,
I other than I do kind of like Rourke,
I'm not a
but
Rourke guy.
but he's like that's your hope that you find some sort of a talent like nowhere near what like the same type of player as Brock Purdy, but he's the type of guy that you would hope like, hey, maybe this guy catches lightning. He's
Yeah.
the to me that's the 7th round guy that everyone's going to sleep on, and he's going to have a better career than the 7th rounder. Tyler Shuck though, possibly the largest variance in perception of where he will get drafted in this draft. He's been anywhere from a 7th round pick all the way up to sneaking into 1st rounds at some points, more towards the 2nd round now. I don't have him as a 2nd rounder, probably a 3rd through 5th, depending on what you think of him. But thoughts on Tyler Shuck here?
Okay. So this is a really, I hate this kid, but I also don't hate this kid. 7 years in college, man.
Old prospect.
25 years old as a rookie. He better be really fucking good in his rookie year. Otherwise, I think you're wasting time. You're wasting a fucking pick. He reminds me of Brandon Whedon, but he does have more athleticism. More athletic, but is completely fucking reckless with the ball.
Yep.
Like,
the injury he can't like he'll have a good game and then I don't know where he'll just like there's a classic where he just looks like he fucking hucks it up in the air type thing, like Jameis Winston, like let's just get this out of my hands and hope something happens. You're like, where the fuck did that come from?
And then you got to think about the injury history. It's extensive.
That's the thing. He's
7 years and he got that much because of injuries.
Yeah, the guy is a fucking madman. Like, especially up until this later point in his career where he has started to obviously adjust his play, not because I think that he's like truly making a mental adjustment like, oh, I need to play a little bit safer. I think that he actually has a little bit of fear because of everything that's fucking happened to him. But he played like a madman, especially early on in his career. Like, he would run the ball with reckless abandon. He would take hits with reckless abandon. He would stand in the pocket and complete fucking pretty good throws and get obliterated while doing it. Hence, constantly injured. But
Wasn't
to me, this guy's
people that were like talking about I swear to God, I think I remember this. There was somebody that was trying to say that he was like Andrew Luck, that he would just stay there. He would run through guys. I was like, well,
Andrew Luck is a jump to me because Andrew Luck was playing behind an ungodly, terrible offensive line, so he just got hit no matter what. And I can't speak to the quality of offensive line or Tyler Shuck, but I can tell you that he had opportunities to move, throw the ball away, things like that.
And just said, fuck it.
And he would be like, nah, I'm making this play. Yeah. Like, he's got a lot of heart to him for sure. Like he took hits for his fucking team to try to complete stuff. Look, I think the guy's got an above average arm. I think that he's got pretty damn good accuracy. I'm not okay with his processing right now. He is a see it, throw it type of guy. It is not like an anticipatory thrower whatsoever right now.
And that's not going to get better because he's been in the NFL or the college for 7 years.
Yeah, possibly.
How much more coaching are you going to get? He has so many tendencies already. He has 7 years of coaching in college to break.
For sure, it's also tough to develop when you're fucking sitting in a full body cast.
That's very true.
Like there's give and take there. Like, the odds of him developing are low because of all of those things that you brought up, but also like it's tough to get better in practice when you're not practicing because you're fucking hurt. And that's the thing with him is that like I think that had he not gotten hurt, the type of quality play that he put on the field probably elevates him somewhere to that same range for me as a Jackson Dart, a second, third round type of guy because of the injury, because of the age, and because of some of those now relatively baked in issues. He's relegated to me in my mind as a backup quarterback in the NFL, but he's one that has high upside as far as his actual arm talent, his accuracy, his willingness to run the ball, and the willingness to go all out for his team. It's just like one of the things that makes a backup a good backup is that they have consistency of being able to be there. And this is a guy that you just don't know because of his play style with how much he is willing to take fucking hits. Didn't necessarily operate in a pro style offense either, so there needs to be a little bit of development curve there. Like, I think there's a lot to like about Tyler Shuck. I really, really do like him as a backup quarterback, but for all the reasons that we talked about, his age and injury history primarily, those are the two biggest things to me. Like, I start to question taking him anywhere above the third round.
Agreed. I was going to say fifth. It doesn't make any sense to me because look, he's 25 and a half. He's 26 in his rookie year. 4 years.
This is why when it was talked
30
about
30 years old at the end of a rookie deal.
And that's why when he was talked about as like going to the Browns at like pick 33, I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. If you are trying to tank, you put the guy out there and you're going to get some fun play and he's going to die.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a great line. He's going to die. He's going to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That makes sense because if you thrust him out there in that sort of a situation, the inevitable is going to happen. He's going to get injured and not be available to you. And then it puts you in a position to go ahead and draft the guy next year. But you can say, hey, we took our shot at a quarterback. That's the kind of scary proposition there with me. Like, I'm not drafting this guy with any aspirations of him being a starter for me. And I think that he can be a high-level backup, but I'm going to hold my breath every time that he goes out there because it might be a very short-lived time of being a backup before we have to go to our third stringer. Like, that's where I'm at with Tyler Shuck. Like, I think that if you took the injuries out of his career and you took the age out of it, like, he is a really, really interesting developmental prospect who has starter potential capabilities based off those physical
but he's
traits.
Still a
like
developmental guy, and
right.
You still got to wait.
Yeah.
So with the injuries and with the age, if you have a team that has any kind of guardrails, like Andrew Berry has these fucking guardrails or had them for the longest time, that you don't draft certain guys over a certain age and certain positions because they just don't hold up long. Well, this is the guy that you don't draft.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be real interesting to see though where he goes and where a bunch of these guys go. Like Shuck and Dart and Milrow. Those are the three kind of weird question marks because I think it's inevitable that Shedeur is going to go first round. Obviously,
for sure,
you're going to see Cam go first round, but there is just a wide variance when it comes to Shuck, Dart, and Milrow, and I only say Milrow because he got the invite. As to where these guys are going to go, I think all three of those guys mentioned probably going to be overdrafted, probably going to be taken round 2 and 3. We're probably going to see them go off the board in day 2, which is a miss in my estimation, but who knows? I mean, we've seen some pretty good quarterbacks come out of round 2. So,
all right, brother. So, any other quarterbacks you want to talk about before we start wrapping this thing up? Because we're not going to get out of here just yet. We have talked about these guys. We will talk about Rory for sure. That was fucking awesome, by the way. Yeah. But before we transition to that and get out of here, I want to know your rankings on these guys. Now, if you need, I will go first. I tend to, honestly, I kind of fuck everybody up every year when I do my quarterback rankings because people wildly disagree with me. I had Bryce Young, I think, as my 4th or 5th quarterback. the year that he came out, and there was people that were up in arms about it. Suck it, I was right. So if you want, I will go first. And I mean, my number one quarterback, I've been singing his praises for a long time. I think it's Shadur Sanders, man. I got Shadur as my QB1 because I think he plays the most pro-ready quarterback right now. Is the ceiling higher for Cam? Sure. But I think right now, day one, I want Shadur Sanders. QB2, I got Cam Ward. Cam has ton of talents, ton of physical talents, but he's got to clean some things up. QB3, for me, I got Will Howard, bro. I like Will Howard there. I got him over Jackson Dart, who I have at QB4. QB5, I got Kyle McCord. QB6, I got Shuck. 7, which is crazy. I'm actually going Milrow because of the athletic ability. And then QB8, I got Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers should not have come out. He should have gone back to school. Milrow should also have gone back to school, but I don't know that he could. I don't know what, he's probably not going to play quarterback, but he should be a really good fucking athlete for somebody in the NFL. So that's what I got. I know you're probably going Cam 1, Shadur 2. I think that's how most people have it. But for me, I got Shadur 1, Cam 2.
All right. Yeah, it's Cam 1, Shadur 2 for me. Again, like I said, I think Shadur is probably worthy of a first round pick, but a second round talent. Dart is my number 3 guy. He's that super high upside, but super low floor type of dart throw that you take in the second round. My number 4 is actually Kyle McCord because of the long-term projection that I see from him, which is that Kirk Cousins type of archetype. Dylan Gabriel, number 5, because I think that the same stuff I talked about with Bo Nix, I feel like he could have that same level of production in the right system. And Tyler Shuck as number 6 for me. I'm not willing to even really rank Milrow, Leonard. I don't find Howard that intriguing of a prospect to me. So they're all kind of after that. The guys I brought up there are intriguing. Yeah, I am intrigued a little bit by Rourke as well, because like I said, I think that he's that guy they'll take in the 7th round and he'll way outperform that. He'll elevate himself, I think, up to being a actual backup in the league and kind of could provide some excitement if he ends up having to get some play. And the guys like a Max Brosmer, I like Max Brosmer, but I never want to see him start. Like I think that he is a very serviceable backup that I really hope you never have to start, just because he doesn't have any sort of like elite traits or anything that you look for. It's weird saying elite traits for a guy that about a backup. Like backups probably aren't going to have elite traits, but like I think that he's a guy that can probably run an offense, but you're not expecting any sort of volume from him. It's those type of guys where it's like you round fucking 6 and later, really 5 and later is where I see kind of the rest of those guys being available.
Yeah. So I forgot to add Dylan Gabriel into my list. I have Gabriel above Ewers and Milrow because, well, Milrow's not a quarterback and Quinn should have definitely gone back to school.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So let's talk about Rory real quick, man. Golf season getting ready to start. You've probably already been golfing down there in Arizona. It's beautiful. No, haven't not played yet?
No, man, I haven't been golfing in such a long time because the last time I golfed, my back was so fucked up for days that like I've been scared to get back out there on the links. I know I need to do it. Or I need to get some yoga routines in or something like that, get my torque flexibility figured out. But yeah, my game is gonna have severely suffered.
Well, my game sucked to begin with, but I can't wait to go golfing at some point this year, try to get back out there on the links. But Rory finally gets it done. It felt like a long time coming, a prophecy that seemed like it was never going to get fulfilled, and Rory winning the Masters and completing the career Grand Slam. I mean, he rattled off the first 3 in 3 years and was set to take over the world of golf. And then it was choke after choke after choke at the Masters.
And it seemed like he was going to
almost choked it away again.
I mean, he lost the lead early in that final round, gained it back, and then had the chance to win it all and choked on that last putt. Yeah, it was like very up and down, and I think that just made it even more of an emotional situation for him and everyone watching, because like it was like, are we going to go through this again?
Yeah.
Like, is he going to, like, the biggest of the big chokes there right at the end? It almost happened, but look, super happy for him. He's one of the big vestiges of golf, like one of the main guys you think about when you think about professional golf right now. I'm definitely very happy for him to have made this achievement in his career.
Yeah, I think it's
I
awesome.
was rooting for Bryson.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Bryson.
I was rooting for Rory because I wanted to see him get it done. One of the coolest things about this, though, and not to take away from Rory in his moment, because it's such, I mean, one of 6 guys now to have completed the career Grand Slam. So he's in rarefied air. But an absolutely Hall of Fame call / no call by Jim Nantz. Allowing that moment to breathe, to let Rory in the crowd and everybody kind of take that in and get to see him and how emotional he was in that moment. I got to tell you, as somebody who is going to school right now for, digital content and broadcasting and film, fuck, man. That's the next level shit. That's the shit that I want to be able to learn how to do. Jim Nantz, just with a professional no call and lit in that moment, just because it felt like we were all there with him. Like, I was so pumped for Rory, dude. And choking that many times didn't do Rory any favors in terms of aging. He got old as fuck fast. Like, he's your age.
Yeah.
So I'm super pumped for him. Great display by Jim Nantz. What an awesome Masters. I love people who bitch like, how do you watch golf? You cannot watch any other golf. Like, if I recommend 2 tournaments to you, that's really all I would recommend: Waste Management and the Masters.
Get behind that. I think that what's the fucking team competition, USA versus Europe or whatever? That's
okay. So the Ryder Cup, for
Yeah.
sure. I'd go watch. Yeah, Ryder Cup for sure.
Waste Management in person is a dream. It's a dream.
Yeah.
But all right, brother. You ready to wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, I think so. So to everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. If you were not tuned in earlier, this is one of the last times you're going to see these beautiful faces under the Lineman Lounge banner. Next week will be our very last Lineman Lounge episode, where we are going to welcome in a bunch of guests. We're going to do a live mock draft and have a great time as we send this thing off. So to everybody who has tuned in, who has rocked with us, thank you. Thank you so much. We're not necessarily leaving, but we are going to be coming to you in a very different way. Evo, thank you very much for everything that you have done. And to everybody still watching, tunes in, time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. I cannot describe to you what it means. But with that, for one of the last few times, we're going to get the fuck out of here. I'm Mike. That is Evo. This is the Lineman Lounge. See ya.